Amy Winehouse was more than just a voice. She was the soul of a generation, a brilliant artist, and an untamed spirit. But at the height of her fame, everything she had worked for began to unravel. Before her tragic death at the age of 27, Amy made a shocking revelation that would forever alter how the world viewed her. She wasn't just battling addiction, she was fighting for her very identity. Behind the glamorous photos and unforgettable songs, the world never saw the pain that consumed her. This is the untold story of Amy Winehouse's rise and fall, a tale of talent, tragedy, and the hidden truths no one was prepared to face.
Amy Winehouse was born on September 14, 1983, in the vibrant city of London. From a young age, it was clear that she had a gift. With a voice that could belt out jazz, soul, and R&B like no one else, Amy quickly became a rising star in the British music scene. But it was her raw emotion and gritty lyrics that would define her. While many of her contemporaries were focused on commercial success and polished images, Amy had a raw authenticity that captivated the world. She wasn't afraid to let her flaws show. She wore her heart on her sleeve, and it resonated deeply with listeners. Her debut album, Frank, 2003, showcased her talent and introduced her to the world. However, it was Back to Black, 2006, that would skyrocket her to international fame. This album was more than just music. It was a diary of her soul. Hits like Rehab, You Know I'm No Good, and Back to Black became anthems of the era, with Amy's distinctive voice weaving a tapestry of heartbreak, defiance, and introspection. But as her career skyrocketed, her personal life began to unravel. The public was captivated not just by her music, but by her erratic behavior, drug use, and tumultuous relationships, particularly with her ex-husband, Blake Fielder Civil. The media often treated her as a tragic figure, yet Amy's talent was undeniable. Despite all the chaos, she was still one of the most exciting, raw artists of her time. In many ways, Amy was a product of the pressures of fame. She entered the spotlight at a young age, and instead of being nurtured, she was exploited. Her struggles with addiction, self-doubt, and emotional turmoil were magnified by the glaring eyes of the world. Yet it was her vulnerability that made her such a captivating figure, both on and off the stage. By 2007, Amy was a household name, yet her personal life was a far cry from the glitz and glamour of her career. Behind the scenes, she was struggling with the demons that would later define her tragic end. Her story, while filled with brilliance, was overshadowed by self-destruction, and the world watched as her life spiraled out of control.
Amy's rise to fame was meteoric. In a matter of a few years, she went from an unknown jazz singer in London to a global music sensation. Her unique voice, combined with her unfiltered lyrics, made her an icon in a world that often valued polished pop stars over authenticity. But just as quickly as she rose, cracks began to appear in her carefully constructed image. The first signs of trouble came in 2006, shortly after the release of Back to Black. Amy was already battling a tumultuous relationship with Blake Fielder Civil, and rumors of her substance abuse began to surface. What was initially brushed off as the behavior of a young, rebellious artist quickly turned into a more serious issue. Her struggles with alcohol and drugs became a focal point of the media, overshadowing her undeniable talent. Despite her personal turmoil, Back to Black went on to become one of the most critically acclaimed albums of the decade. Amy won 5 Grammy Awards in 2008, making her the first British female artist to win 5 Grammys in one night. The world seemed to be at her feet, but as her career soared, her personal life continued to spiral out of control. In 2007, Amy's life was a constant media spectacle. The paparazzi captured her almost daily, documenting her erratic behavior, outbursts, and the growing signs of addiction. She was often seen stumbling through the streets of London, showing up to performances intoxicated, or even canceling concerts altogether. Her once angelic image was now one of a tragic figure, a wild child star who couldn't keep up with the fame that had come too quickly. Amy's marriage to Blake Fielder Civil only made things worse. Their volatile relationship became public fodder, with the couple frequently seen in public fighting or indulging in destructive behavior. Amy's addiction to drugs and alcohol intensified, and the once promising future of a pop icon was rapidly slipping away. By 2008, Amy's battle with addiction was no longer something the media could ignore. The constant stories of her breakdowns, her rehab stints, and her inability to function properly in the public eye only fueled her downward spiral. Yet despite all of this, her music continued to captivate millions. Amy was still writing, still performing, but her personal struggles became the focus of her fame rather than her talent. The culmination of her struggles came in the summer of 2011 when Amy was found dead in her London home from alcohol poisoning. She had just turned 27, and like so many tragic icons before her, Amy became part of the infamous 27 Club, a group of legendary artists who passed away at the age of 27. Her death was not just a loss for the music industry, but for the world, as it marked the end of an era. Amy Winehouse was more than just a singer. She was a symbol of the cost of fame, the toll it takes on a person, and the fragile line between brilliance and self-destruction. Her story is one of immense talent, but also one of personal demons that no one could help her face.
As Amy's public struggles continued, the cracks in her public image deepened, and the world watched as she fell apart in front of their eyes. The truth behind her battle with addiction was far darker than anyone realized. It wasn't just the drugs and alcohol. It was the deep sense of abandonment and loneliness that haunted Amy from the inside out. Amy's relationship with her family, particularly with her father, Mitch Winehouse, was never easy. Mitch had been absent from Amy's life for much of her childhood, and their strained relationship caused Amy significant emotional pain. This disconnect would haunt her throughout her life, contributing to her struggle with self-worth. Despite her success, Amy never felt truly loved or supported in the way she needed. She had a void that she tried to fill with substances and toxic relationships, notably with Blake Fielder Civil, whose own issues with addiction further fueled her downward spiral. Behind the fame, Amy's self-destructive behavior was a cry for help, a desire to escape the pressures of being a public figure. Her battles with addiction were not just a consequence of fame, but a reflection of the emotional turmoil she had been carrying for years. In interviews, Amy spoke openly about her struggles with depression, feeling trapped in a cycle of isolation and self-loathing. The world may have seen her as a chaotic figure, but what they didn't see were the moments of vulnerability that Amy experienced in private. Her emotional peak came in 2007 after a disastrous performance in Belgrade, Serbia, where Amy appeared visibly intoxicated and unable to perform. The audience booed her off the stage, and the moment became one of the most infamous in her career. This incident was a turning point. It was a public sign that Amy had reached her breaking point. Yet, instead of receiving the help and support she needed, the media continued to vilify her. The constant scrutiny only deepened her isolation, and the pressure of being in the spotlight while battling her demons became too much to bear. As Amy continued to spiral, there were glimmers of hope. She entered rehab several times in an attempt to regain control of her life. However, each time her attempts were thwarted by the relentless cycle of addiction and the emotional weight she carried. At her best, Amy was a stunning artist who could create deeply poignant music. But at her lowest, she was a woman consumed by the very darkness she sang about. Her emotional turmoil was reflected in her music, in the haunting lyrics of Back to Black, Tears Dry on Their Own, and Love is a Losing Game, songs that were raw, personal, and brutally honest. Amy's final public appearance came just weeks before her death, when she performed at a London music festival. Her performance was a shadow of her former self, slurred words, uneven vocals, and a struggle to stay on her feet. But even in that moment, there was still a spark of the artist she once was. That night, she performed as though the world wasn't watching, pouring every bit of her pain into the music. It was the last time Amy Winehouse would stand on a stage, broken but still capable of touching the hearts of millions.
Amy Winehouse's story is one of the most tragic in modern music history. Despite the media's portrayal of her as a wild, out-of-control star, the truth is far more nuanced. Amy wasn't just a product of her fame, she was a woman struggling with deep emotional pain, haunted by insecurities and personal demons that no amount of fame or fortune could cure. At her best, Amy was a brilliant, once-in-a-generation talent. Her voice, smoky and soulful, could convey emotions with such rawness that it made her music timeless. Back to Black remains one of the most influential albums of the 21st century, and it's a testament to her unparalleled musical ability. But what's often forgotten in the discussion of her career is that Amy Winehouse wasn't just a victim of addiction. She was a victim of a system that never gave her the support she needed. The industry and media machine that built her up also tore her down. The constant scrutiny, the pressure to live up to impossible standards, and the relentless judgment from the public made it even harder for Amy to cope with her personal struggles. However, Amy's legacy is more than just her music. It is a stark reminder of the dangers of fame, the importance of mental health, and the need for a more compassionate approach toward celebrities struggling with addiction. Amy Winehouse, in all her glory and her tragedy, challenged us to look beyond the headlines and see the human being behind the public image. She reminded us that no amount of fame or success can fill the void of unresolved emotional pain. Amy's life and career serve as a warning. Fame isn't always the dream it seems. It can be suffocating, isolating, and even dangerous for those who are unprepared for its weight. Yet despite the chaos and the heartbreak, Amy Winehouse's music continues to resonate with people around the world, inspiring a new generation of artists and fans alike. Her influence is undeniable, and the world is still mourning the loss of an icon who left too soon. So what do you think of Amy's legacy? Do you see her as a victim of the pressures of fame, or do you believe she could have found a way to overcome her demons? Share your thoughts with us in the comments.
Some stories are never meant to be told, but now you know. Amy Winehouse's life was filled with brilliance and beauty, but also marred by tragedy and heartbreak. She was more than just a tragic figure in the world of music. She was a symbol of the delicate balance between fame, talent, and personal demons. In the end, Amy's music will outlive the chaos of her life. Her voice still echoes through the hearts of those who remember the joy and the pain that she poured into every note. Amy Winehouse's legacy is complicated, yet undeniable. She showed the world what it meant to be raw, vulnerable, and unapologetic. In a world that often demands perfection, Amy was refreshingly real. Flawed, yes, but genuine. Her story, as dark and tragic as it may be, has become a part of music history, reminding us that the greatest artists are often the ones who struggle the most. But some stories are not meant to be a cautionary tale. They're meant to inspire. Amy's journey, though filled with pain, reminds us of the fragility of life, the pressure of fame, and the importance of compassion for those who are silently fighting battles we cannot see. And though she may no longer be here with us, her impact on music and culture will live on for generations to come. Some stories were never meant to be known, but now you know. Amy Winehouse's story is a lesson in how we see those who struggle and how we choose to remember them.